Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I am doing a kind of tag video. So Chloe from Chloe Reads Books did this. She was tagged by Victoria at what Victoria read, but Chloe specified at the end of her video that she wasn't tagging anyone specific, but if we wanted to do it and let her know. So Chloe, this is me doing this tag. So this is the If I Could Only Keep 10 Books tag, and it's very self-explanatory, the title. I have picked 10 books. It was really hard, and there was actually one that I was really struggling about whether to put in or not, but then I didn't want to take any of the 10 out, so I will mention that it is a Cassandra Clare one, and it is Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. It was like literally so hard not putting that one in here, but I didn't want to take any of these out, and that one would have been in here because the main character, I can't say much about it because it is kind of spoilery for the Mortal Instruments series, but it is one of my favorite characters, and it's a collection of short stories, but they are very, very connected. I wouldn't really class them as short stories, but they are. But anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that one because that would make this 11 books, and we're not going to talk about 11 books. We're going to talk about 10. Now, I have put these in an order. I'm going to start with the 10th one, and I think everyone knows what the first one's going to be, to be honest. If you know me and you've been watching my channel, you're going to know. But we're going to get there eventually. So, at number 10, we have Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. Now, I've said this many times, my reasoning for why I love this book so much, and I'm going to repeat myself again. Now, I know a lot of people hate this. Leah is pretty biphobic. For a bi girl, she's biphobic. And the reason this book would be on this list is because when I look back at 17-year-old Becca, I was basically Leah. My life revolved around Drarry fanfiction, and I didn't understand that being bi isn't just like everyone who's bi is exactly the same. So I was pretty biphobic with some of the things I thought and some of the things I did say, actually. And the reason I love this so much is because reading this and seeing Leah act that way made me realise just how much I have grown as a person and become a better person. I'm still not the perfect person. No one is perfect. I am never going to claim to be perfect. But I know from reading this and from looking back at when I was 17 that I am a better person, and I have grown and I have learned a lot. So this was sort of like a nostalgic kind of thing, and I love this so much. With some things I do still relate to Leah, but they're the good things. They're not the bad things. I would still read Drarry fanfiction, not gonna lie, but there's one in particular that I would read because it's a really good one. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. This is book 10. Book 9 is a book I literally have never seen anyone talk about, and that is The Other Side of Lost by Jessie Kirby. I got this in a book box club box a few years back, and oh my god, I am obsessed with this. Shall I read the synopsis for this? I'm going to read you the synopsis for these books because, yeah. Mary Turner's life is perfect, at least to her thousands of social media followers. They don't realise that each carefully constructed photo is a distraction from the fact that she has no real friends and no direction in life. After a lonely birthday, Mari does something she hasn't for a long time. She looks into the lens of her camera and she tells the truth. Then she posts it, and when her video confession goes viral, Mari is even more desperate to escape. It's after that that a box full of hiking gear arrives on Mari's doorstep. It belonged to her late cousin Bree. Mari and Bree talked about hiking the John Muir Trail together before Mari got so wrapped up online that she turned her back on their friendship. Mari may have zero hiking experience, but with Bree's boots and trail diary as her guide, as well as a group of strangers who become friends, Mari slowly navigates the demanding terrain of the trail. The true challenge, however, lies within as she searches for the way back from lost to found. Honestly, this book will hit you in the feels. I loved this, and this is actually the book that has made me want to go on a hike. Now, I am not a fit person and I do have troubles with my knees. It's undiagnosed. I don't know what's wrong. The doctor is so unhelpful, but that's another story. But I would love to one day do a massive hike. a smaller one, which is still a hike, but not like a camping hike like this, is the I wanna climb. I want to go to Edinburgh and I want to climb to Arthur's Seat. That's sort of a mini one. I did with the book club girls. We did organise. Well, actually, it was Libby and Kate, who are the founders of Bookbox Club. They organised a little hike, and there was only a few of us that turned up. But honestly, it was so much fun. It was in the Cotswolds, and it was just such a fun day. And then so we met all at this like little pub. And it was like a proper country lane pub. It was gorgeous. We did the hike, and then obviously we got back there and we had something to eat in the pub, and it was honestly such a great day, and it just even more fueled. And this book was what inspired that. I can't talk today, I'm really sorry. This is what inspired that. And honestly, the main character's self-discovery journey is just, I love this so much, and no one talks about it, and it's such a shame because it's an amazing book. Next we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is the book that got me into classics. When I was a kid, I only read 2 classics. This and Little Women. I loved both of them, but this, I don't know what it was about it. I just got obsessed with it. And then I saw the BBC adaptation with Colin Firth playing Mr. Darcy, and it was all over. Like, that was it. My heart was sold. I have many editions of this, which if you've watched my classics collection video that I did a while back, it was last year, I have more since then. I have more editions of Pride and Prejudice since then. But I love this story. It's not the greatest story, and I know it's not the greatest story, but I don't know what it is about this. I think it's partly the nostalgia, because it was the first classic that I ever truly loved. And I was actually debating putting Jane Eyre on this list instead, because that's a newer one I've discovered I love. And I think if I had read both this and Jane Eyre as an adult, Jane Eyre probably would have been on this list, but this has the nostalgia side, so this stays on here. The next one is The Martian by Andy Weir. Now, whilst I absolutely loved this book, it was a 5-star, it was one of my favourite books of last year. The reason it's on this list and it's bumped up just that little bit more was because this I read at a really rough time, probably one of the hardest times of my life, and I'm probably going to get emotional talking about it right now because of course I am. But I actually read this whilst my dad was in the hospital after having a heart attack, and I needed something that was not on my TBR, and I had been hearing Steph from Steph Loves talk about this and rave about this, and Will Wheaton narrates the audiobook, and I found this copy of the physical book in a charity shop for £1 when I was umming and ahhing about this book. So I bought this, and then a few weeks later my dad had a heart attack. He ended up in hospital. He was in the ICU for a couple of weeks, and yeah, I started listening to the audiobook of this on a train going to visit him at the hospital, because I was the only person that could. Only one person was allowed to go and visit him, and it was just, I was the only person that lives close enough that could easily get up to the hospital on a regular basis. And I started listening to the audiobook of this, and I remember starting it on one Sunday on my journey to the hospital, and it was actually one of the better days when he had actually come out of the ICU and he was talking again and he was able to walk. And I got home from the hospital, I listened to it on the way home, and then I had about half of the book left, and I literally went and sat in the garden on my new swing chair that has a bug net, and I literally just devoured the end of it. And it was one of those books I needed at that time. I needed a like funny, happy book. I mean, this gets pretty like rough for the main character at times, but he still has a sense of humor, and it was exactly what I needed at that time in my life. And I'm never gonna forget my experience reading this, because it was sort of like the light in, like a light for me in the dark. Okay, that got a bit deep, I'm sorry about that. I didn't cry though, go me. The next book is Havenful by Sarah Holland. I wasn't going to put this on this list for the pure fact I absolutely hate the ending of the sequel to this. However, This book was my favourite book of 2020. I can't find a fault with this. I loved this book so much, and I would like to pretend this is a standalone that's left open, like really open, because that is better. That would be better than the ending of the second book. But I don't really know why this is on this list, but I feel like deep down it should be. So that's why I couldn't bring myself to take this one out to put the Cassandra Clare one in, because just something was telling me this needed to be on this list. I would reread this one over and over again and be happy with just rereading this one and not the sequel. And I just absolutely love this book. It's incredible, and if you're okay with bad duology endings, then I highly recommend it, or just reading the first book. But yeah, I also realise I'm not reading the synopsis for any of the others. I've only read it for one, but it's fine. Some of these are like sequels, so I can't anyway, but it's fine. Next up we have A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. This was not, I didn't think this was going to be my favourite book in the ACOTAR series. ACOMAF has always been my favourite. But this one overtook it. And the reason this is on this list is because I, like everyone else, did not like Nesta in the main trilogy. And I didn't like her in A Court of Frost and Starlight. And then this book changed my opinion completely of her. And whilst I love everything about this book, like in general, the reason it's on this list is because of the mental health rep. I related to Nesta in parts so much, and honestly her journey was so well written. Like the way her mental health is handled and the way she starts to try and overcome her issues, and it's not rushed, it's done just right, I think, and it really hits. That's why it's on this list. Plus the smut is good, and I had to have one with like some smut because this is me. Next up we have one that I literally only finished reading the other day, and that is Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series, and I'm going to tell you right now, the reason this is on this list is because this book made me cry for a solid 20 minutes after I finished it. There's a thing that happens near the end, and 29 pages from the end to be exact, and it hit me so much. Like I can't even say much without spoiling anything. So all I'm gonna say is that this book literally broke me. It ripped my heart out, it broke me, and it made me feel more than any book has made me feel in so long, apart from the first book. And this we're gonna get back to that. There's a different type of feeling that one gave me, but I have not sobbed like this at a book, I don't think, ever. Even Liv said, when I messaged her, even she said that she's not seen me react like this to a book before. And I don't know what it was, because I wasn't feeling particularly emotional that day. I was feeling pretty good that day, and this just hit me. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's really hard to talk about this without spoiling. So yeah, that's why this is on here. Next is a bit more of a personal one, like with The Martian, but it's The Places I've Cried in Public by Holly Bourne. This is a YA contemporary, and this really hits me in the feels, because the main character ends up with a guy in college, and it slowly becomes visible to the reader, not to the main character, that he is not a good guy. There are many red flags. She does not see the red flags. She doesn't listen to people when they tell her the red flags. She has very rose tinted glasses, and he's very emotionally abusive. I don't think he ever actually physically like hits her or anything, which makes this just so much more relevant, because when I was 17 I ended up in a relationship with a guy, funnily enough, same name as the guy that this girl ends up with. I was with him for almost 6 years, and he was genuinely so emotionally abusive. And I never saw, because I had rose tinted glasses. Whenever someone, like my friends and that and family, would like bring up something, I would brush it off. I would find excuses. And honestly, this book resonated with me so much. I genuinely cried for most of this book because of the similarities and how much it just like not opened my eyes, because like my eyes were opened years ago, but it hit hard, and I knew it would just from reading the blurb for it. But honestly, Holly Bourne just has this way of writing, and I can't even describe how much I absolutely adore her writing, but this book especially, because honestly, this is amazing. I love it so much. And I think this is also an important book for teenagers to read, because it might make them like sort of like open their eyes a bit sooner if they're in like an abusive relationship and don't realize. But yeah, we got deep again. We got deep again, and we also like delved into my life a little bit. But I also read this at a time where I was in a good relationship. So, and although that relationship didn't that relationship isn't around anymore, it was a good relationship, especially after the bad relationship. So it was very therapeutic for me to read this as well, because I was in a good place when I read it. So yeah. Next up, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I think we all know that this would be on this list. I have 11 copies of this book. I love this. I've read it 3 times and it's been out less than 2 years. I adore everything about this book. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the line, "I remember you." It breaks me every single time. And honestly, I don't think I could ever live without this book, which is why I have so many copies. I know people always say like, "Oh my God, this book is my life. I can't live without it." But this I would not be able to not have a copy of this, because I love it so much. And I always am thinking, when am I going to reread Addie again? Like, it's stuck with me so much, and I just absolutely adore it. I know many people think it's boring, or they didn't like the characters, or they didn't like the repetition of certain things in it, but I do not agree with them. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I do not share that opinion. I love this book with my whole being, and I would not be able to live without this. So this is 100% on my if I could only keep 10 books, because this would never be leaving my possession. Also, this is the Pretty Barnes & Noble edition, just saying. And then we have the final book, and I want to see if you can guess what the book is going to be. I mean, I'm not going to know if you've like cheated or whatever, but like, pause the video, put a comment saying what you think the top book's gonna be, and we'll see. Okay, I've given you enough time to pause it and everything. The number 1 book is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Are any of you shocked that this is on this list at number 1? This book has literally become my personality. It's become my everything, and I am 100% okay with that, because it's a bloody good book. I have already read this twice in the last few months. I've tabbed and annotated the hell out of it, and this book really got me. So as well as just loving the book, this book made me sob for 20 minutes after reading it, for a different reason to this one. This one was because something happened and it hurt me. Yeah, enough said about that. This one was because, and Lisa from Lisa Does Life can vouch for this, because I was at her house when I finished this book, and she asked me why I was crying, like, "Oh my God, did something happen?" And I was like, no, I'm crying because I love it so much. Like, I've never had a reaction to that book, to a book like that before. I've never cried over a book because I loved it. I've plenty of times I've cried because of what's happening, like what the ending was. Something sad happened, something happy has happened that's made me cry, but I have never cried purely because I love a book so much. So there is obviously no way this is never, I don't see any book ever taking the place as my favourite book of all time. And as a fantasy and sci-fi, predominantly fantasy and sci-fi reader, having a contemporary as my favourite book ever has really opened my eyes to the fact that maybe I like contemporary now. Maybe I've grown to love contemporary, considering there is actually quite a few contemporaries on this list. There is, let's have a look. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of my 10 books are contemporary, and to an extent Pride and Prejudice is contemporary as well. Like, I would even, classic's not really a genre, let's be real. It's just when books get old enough they become a classic. That's how I see it anyway. But it's a contemporary. There's no like fantasy or sci-fi element or dystopian. It is contemporary. So half of the books on this list are contemporary. So I think it's safe to say that I am a contemporary reader, and I need to stop trying to tell myself I'm not, because contemporary is great, and this book has shown me that it's okay as a fantasy sci-fi reader to love contemporary. So this book is my whole life. It is my whole personality. You will never not hear me talking about this book. It's going to be like 10 years time, I'm still going to be talking about this book and rereading it. I already want to reread it, but I only reread it a month ago, so we'll see. But yeah, to no one's surprise, this book is number 1 on this list, is it? No, it's not. Okay, so those are my 10 books. Now, I haven't asked anyone. I, like Chloe, forgot to ask people, but I'm just going to tag a few people anyway because I think they would like to do this. If you watch this and you don't want to do it, that is absolutely fine. I'm not going to judge you, don't worry. You don't have to. I'm just tagging you just in case you want to. If I don't name you, you can still do it if you want to and say that I've tagged you, it's fine. So the people I'm going to tag are Liv over at Live in Magical Bookland, Lisa from Lisa Does Life, and Chloe from Persistent Bookworm. So I'm going to leave it at those 3 people. But like I said, if I have not tagged you and you would like to do this but haven't been tagged, then consider yourself tagged by me and feel free to say that I have tagged you, because I would really like to see everyone's responses to this. If you don't want to do the video but you have an idea what some of your top 10 or your top 10 would be, let me know in the comments below, because again, I would love to see. We all know I'm nosy and I like to see people's answers to these things. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye.